Hello, friends. Welcome back. Let's do my July reading wrap up and then talk about what I want to read in August. The first book I finished in June was Assassin's Quest by Robin Hobb. I thought this was an incredible ending to the Farseer trilogy, and I said it before, but I'll say it again. I do feel really privileged to be a new reader to Robin Hobb in 2025. I think that there are some open-ended questions at the end of this trilogy that maybe would have frustrated me more if I didn't know there were still not only so many books ahead of me, but also 3 dedicated series ahead of me to 2 dedicated series ahead of me to Fitz's story. The other gripe that I do here is that, without trying to give spoilers, some of the action points of the end of this book we are told rather than being there. And I think I understand that criticism, except for I do think it makes sense for Fitz as the sort of reluctant hero to not necessarily be there for everything, if that makes sense. Let me know what you think, and we can discuss in the comments. Then I read Ship of Magic. Oh, I guess I'll do star ratings. I gave Assassin's Quest a 4.75. Ship of Magic, I gave a solid 5 stars. I love this so much. It was so fun going from a first-person POV in Robin Hobb's writing and narrative style to all of a sudden bouncing between all of these different perspectives. And truly, unlike many multi-POV books, I was not mad at any single POV that I had to read. Everything has something unique and interesting to add to the story, and it just feels like the best interconnected storyline that you're just waiting for that amazing moment at the end when everyone comes together. And are there characters I like more than others? Of course. But they're all so richly developed and layered that they're all really interesting, and even the ones that piss you off are still so compelling. Like, I would say in this book, the 2 characters that annoyed me the most were Kyle and Malta, and I still loved reading about them. So, yeah. Cannot recommend more, honestly. Then I listened to Tusk Love by Thea Guanzon. I'm a huge Dimension 20 fan. I've not actually watched any of Critical Role. Not because I don't like it or I'm not interested, but we all only have a finite amount of time on our hands, and I choose that usually to just read. But when I heard the concept of this book, the fact that Tusk Love was a bodice ripper that the party came across during one of the campaigns, and then Critical Role hired Thea Guanzon to bring it to life. I just loved that concept. And then I just found this book funny and sexy, and it definitely hit all of the same plot beats of a historical romance, so I loved that. You can tell Thea Guanzon is a fan of the historical romance genre to have brought it to life. And yeah, I just really loved it. And I have another book by her, The Hurricane Wars, and it makes me excited to read it because I liked her writing style. Then I read To Be Taught If Fortunate by Becky Chambers. I read all of The Wayfarers last year, and I fell in love with Becky Chambers' writing. I just love the way that she's writes about space and sort of the future of humanity. And so this novella was no exception. It was beautiful, and it made me think, and it made me feel, and in my mind, it did a lot of what Orbital by Samantha Harvey was trying to do, but in my opinion, did it in a better way. So I really enjoyed it and would recommend for just a quick novella, but also to anyone who knows that they already love Becky Chambers. Then I read The Song of Achilles, and I gave this a 3.75. I talked about this in my mid-year freakout tag. I called this my biggest disappointment. It's not that it was bad, it's just that I think I knew too much about all of the most emotional parts of it, that it just didn't really hit because those specific lines and phrases were spoiled to me. Because if you think about it, if you know about the myth, then you know that Achilles and Patroclus are going to die. And so that part's already quote unquote spoiled for you. And so then to have these specific gut-wrenching lines spoiled for you, like I couldn't even enjoy the prose as something fresh and new. I think that's why it didn't hit for me, but I would still recommend it if this is something of interest, but maybe just go into it knowing that if you already know a lot about it like I do, that maybe it won't hit you as hard as it has for others. But I did love Madeline Miller's writing. I just think it was more of a me problem. Then I read Mary by Nat Cassidy. This was incredible. If you want a book about female rage and aging and what it means or what it feels like to be a woman getting older and feeling invisible, wow, this book was incredible. And the fact that it was written by a cis white man, hats off to you, sir. Definitely read the foreword and afterword if you read this book. I can't explain why without spoiling, but oh my goodness. Such an impactful addition to this reading experience to read those two pieces. And yeah, I just had a great time with this. I gave this a 4.5 stars, mainly just because in sort of the back 20 to 30%, there is a section that sort of drags that I wish would have been maybe reworked. But other than that one pacing issue, I really, really loved this. And it's also really funny. Like, I really liked it. Then I read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I gave this 5 stars. V.E. Schwab is a new favorite author. I personally put this on par with Barrier Bones of the Midnight Soil. I know that a lot of people were a bit disappointed by Barrier Bones, and I think I might have been in the same camp if I had read this when it came out and then waited the 5 years for Barrier Bones, because the two books do tackle similar themes, and, you know, depending on the person and your taste, you might think that one book does it better than the other. But I loved them both for similar and different reasons. I liked the way that they kind of exist in conversation with one another. And yeah, I relate so heavily to the human disaster that is Henry. I loved his character. Then I read This Is How You Lose the Time War, and this blew me away. This was another 5 stars. I'm so glad I came back to it. I had tried to read this in like February and I found it boring and I could not connect to it. I attempted only listening to it, not holding, like reading the physical book, and it was just glazing over my ears. I was not at all absorbing the story. I read this physically this time, and oh my God, if you can just understand that going into this, you're not necessarily supposed to understand every single thing that they're talking about, but know that the importance is the relationship between red and blue, then I think you'll like it more. If you're looking for really logical, like, world building or to fully understand what's going on, you're not gonna like it. But yeah, I loved it. It was so good. I tabbed it, loved it. Then I read The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Islington. This was a 4 star. I felt like this was one big prequel. I don't know if this book had enough to really like stand on its own. It was really setting up a lot of things for later in the series, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But the only other thing that I had a mild issue with was this is a multi-character story, which I do really like. I like a big cast of characters. But it kind of felt like every character perfectly fell into being at the right place in the right time for what was needed to further the story along. And it's not that I think that's bad. It's just that sometimes if you're already writing a really long book, take some time to develop the characters a little bit slower and teach me about who they are as people instead of focusing on how do we progress forward. I don't know. No, let me know what you think. I would love to talk about this one. Then I listened to And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. I gave this a 3.5. I'm really happy I read it. I read this with my friends in real life. And I liked Agatha Christie's writing style. I will definitely read more by her. And I love that this book was structured around the nursery rhyme, the 10 Little Soldiers. But as they're all on this island, and they start one by one getting picked off, everyone is just too chill about everything. I was sitting there like, why are we not all staying in the same room? Why are we not scheduling watch? Why are we just having tea, talking about who's going to die, and then going to bed? And then the one woman who's like, this is crazy, she just gets the shit slapped out of her, and then she's like, sorry for being emotional. Like, no, I actually think that your emotions are quite apt. I think that freaking out probably makes sense in the situation, but that's just me. And then structurally, this is a mild spoiler, structurally, I didn't love that we went through the whole book and then all of the explanation and reasoning were just sort of dumped on us in the epilogue. I could have just done with maybe a little bit of a longer book instead of it being structured that way. But I will for sure read more by her. You know, she's the queen of mysteries and thrillers and whodunits, and she's influenced the genre so heavily. I'm really interested in reading more by her, but just didn't really work for me. Then I read Hot Girls with Balls by Benedict Nguyen. This was my aardvark pick for last month. This is a really sharp satire following two trans women who are playing in a fictional men's volleyball league. And they have recently gone viral for a kiss they share at the end of last season when they go up against each other. So it's like a bit of a rivals to lovers, except for in this book, they're already together. And this book talks a lot about what it means to be an online figure. And so there's a lot of social media comments in here. And I will say one of the things I really didn't love is, first of all, this book doesn't have quotations, which I can deal with, except then there are a lot of times where they do not use dialogue tags like he said, she said, and it can make it a little confusing to follow. And then in addition to that, when there are social media comments, they're just sort of directly in line with the text. They're not like separated out, they're not in a different font. And so that just made it feel a little bit disjointed. And then there was a couple times when the comments just like went on and on and on for like a couple pages. And I could kind of understand maybe what that was trying to communicate to us, like how overwhelming it is to have this much of a social media presence. But I think I just got to the end of the book and I was just like, okay, and it said kind of a lot without saying a lot. So maybe I just didn't get it. Maybe I need someone to talk to me about this one. But overall, 3 stars. Yeah. And then I ended the month on a little bit of a downer. I was doing my spin the wheel and I got Love in the Time of Serial Killers, read 30% and DNF'd because I thought it was cringy and I really wasn't enjoying it. The whole premise kind of hinges on the fact that our main character is writing her dissertation on true crime, and she goes to stay in her father's house after he passes away to get it packed up and ready to sell. And she begins to suspect that her neighbor, well, her father's neighbor, is a serial killer. And I liked that. And I liked how many true crime references there were in this book as someone who used to really be into true crime. However, and again, okay, spoiler, but she tells him this within the first 30% of the book, and then they're like, ha ha ha, wasn't that funny that I thought you were a serial killer? I wanted it to be more of almost like a slow burn where she doesn't tell him that she thought that he was a serial killer, and then he keeps doing sketchy things that she misinterprets until there's some sort of like confrontation where she tries to catch him, and he's like, I don't know, I'm just painting my house, or I'm just planting a garden. Like, why are you out here? And in the meantime, they've been like brought together for some other reason and they're bonding. And so she's conflicted about, do I like him or is he a serial killer? Like, it just sort of fell flat for me. And once she revealed that to him, I was out. I had no more interest and I didn't really feel much of a connection between these two characters. And I think someone else can probably enjoy it more than me, maybe. Although not if you watch this video, because I just spoiled it for you. So sorry about that. Then I spun again and I got Elektra by Jennifer Saint, and I was finding this so boring. I was having a really hard time getting into it. And so I went on Goodreads and I was trying to see if anyone I knew had read it. And one of the people I follow is Zoe from NYC Book Co. And she has a degree in classics, I believe. It might be in Egypt studies, but it might be just in classics overall. I can't recall. But because of the nature of her studies, and her continued interest in the topic, I trust her recommendations when it comes to books like these, and she gave Elektra and Ariadne 2 stars, and I owned both of those. So I was like, okay, let me dig a little deeper and read some more reviews. And a lot of people were saying that they were slow, they didn't creatively expand upon the original myth. They claimed to be feminist retellings, but they didn't actually do anything super feminist with the works. And then in some cases, they changed things about the original myth in ways that just didn't make logical sense in regards to the source material. And so that was enough for me to say it's not for me, and I listed this on my Pango. But it is a beautiful cover. I bought it because it was beautiful. But yeah, goodbye. Okay, so we just talked for 15 minutes straight. Let's talk some more. Let's look at everything I want to read in August. And when I initially wrote this list down, I was like, that's not that many. I can do that. Because I always think it's fun to see if I can stick to my TBRs. I like tracking that. But then I actually picked up the physical books. And now I'm feeling more doubtful. Because it's still going. We're still picking up books. Okay. See? We have some chonkers. Okay, let's not knock over the camera. All right, so I will start by talking about books I am already in the middle of, because that just makes sense to me. So I am 30% of my way into The Witness by Nora Roberts. This is a part of my little series I'm doing, books I think my grandma would have read for a little bit of backstory. Like many of our grandmothers, I think, she owned a truly epic collection of mass market paperbacks, all the Harlequin romances, but she also was really, really into romantic suspense and mysteries. So I've been doing a little bit of historical romance, and then this is my first romantic suspense. This book is very much giving bones, so I'm here for it. Then this weekend in particular, I have just been all consumed by Madship. This is all I want to read, and I thought I was going to be able to pace myself and not just binge it, because I think there is something to be said about taking your time with a book that you're really loving and making sure that you're really absorbing it. But no, I just must know everything. I love all these characters. I just want to keep hanging out with them. So I'm like 60% of the way through this, and I'll probably finish this weekend. And then in that same vein, I will be doing Ship of Destiny. Oh, I was talking about books I was already in the middle of. Anyway, so I'll be starting that. But other 2 more books I've already started. Harrow, the 9th. I'm like 30% of the way through here. Talk to me about this one, though. It's confusing. Will there be payoff? Will I be happy with the ending? Talk to me about it, because I love the writing style. I love the humor. I love the characters, but I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed. I'm not going to lie. And then I am about 10% into Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I love her prose, I love her characters, so I'm just excited to see where I fall on the spectrum of liking this or not liking this. Overall, this has been her most, I think, contentious release. Then I will be reading The Guy She Was Interested In Wasn't a Guy at All. This is a sapphic manga I've been seeing on TikTok, so I picked it up, and I'm looking forward to reading it. The art is awesome, and I feel like I can probably read this, like just kick this, knock this out on like a Saturday. Then I will be continuing An Echo of Things to Come. I'll be continuing the Lycanius trilogy, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm a little apprehensive because it's not really making me super, super excited, but I want to keep going. I will give it a chance for sure. My in-person friend book club is reading The Shadow of the Gods by John Nguyen. Very excited about this. My friend, she was listening to it on audio only, and she was like, is this book about orcs? And I was like, I don't think so. And then I was sitting there thinking about it, and I was like, wait, do you think this is about orcs because one of the women's names is Orca? We had a good chuckle about that. Then I will be reading my Spin the Wheel, Picked the Two Towers, and I am part of the Chris and Mads Patreon. And when they read Fellowship, or when they read Lord of the Rings in January and February, they actually split up Two Towers and Return of the King as a tandem read. So following the order of the movies. So I decided I will be doing that because my source for loving the works is from the movies, and my point of reference for understanding the chronology of the series is from the movies, and I just thought that sounded fun. So I will keep you guys posted on how that goes. And then last but not least, I'm doing my first buddy read. I'm reading Anji Kills the King with some gals from TikTok. I will put their names all on the screen here for you, but it's going to be myself, Shauna, Lauren, Leslie, Jordana, Haley, and Megan. So really excited about this. And yeah. That was a lot of books. That was a lot of talking. Let me know what your best book of July was and what you're excited about reading for August, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye, guys! This is Michelle from like 5 minutes in the future. I forgot that I'm also really excited to read Silver Cloak by Laura Steven. It released on July 29th, and I think right now my copy is waiting for me in the mailbox, so I just need to go grab it. But I really, really enjoyed Our Infinite Fates, and I was really charmed by a recent interview that I watched with Laura Steven. She seems really sweet and down to earth, very humble. And she specifically said, she was like, even though I think people, like my publishers, are going to yell at me, she's like, I was inspired to write a story about wands and wizards that was queer normative and hopefully a safe place for anyone who feels rightfully angry and alienated from the other Wands and Wizards series, if you know. Who doesn't at this point? But yeah, I'm really interested in reading that, and I will probably be picking that one up this week because I'm excited about it. Anyway, goodbye again.